GM fam, it is Wednesday, July 26th. Today is the first day of the rest of our lives, and we sincerely hope that whatever you are building today becomes our top story tomorrow. As usual, the past 24 hours has seen a lifetime of action in DeFi and cryptocurrency. So today's top stories is voted on by you, our users. USDC's market cap has dropped by 50% within the past year, raising concerns over Circle's ties to the banking system. We're joined by DeFi Advisor to talk about this. DeFi Advisor, what's your take on this?
What's up, sir? Good to be with you here. I don't know. It doesn't seem that much to me, the USDC stuff. I think it's more of an expression in liquidity in the overall markets than a threat to USDC's status at the moment. Like, I don't know. Not that big a deal, at least the way I see it. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd agree with your take on that. Obviously, like the big story has been the liquidity getting vacuumed out of what we're used to. So there's like a ton of people, ton going on within like the whole like TradFi space, and we're seeing a liquidity get vacuumed out. So like USDC's been hit harder than most. We're also joined by our regular host, Sam, to take things over. Sam.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
Oh, hello, sir.
Right, Garrett. You can keep going for now. I'll get steadied in here in a second.
What's the next
I'm having
lineup?
some audio issues. If you guys can take over for me for a second.
Oh, it sounds fine. Okay. Yeah, sure. Let's see. So today is the first stream that we actually have for Telegram.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's actually pretty cool. Actually, we've been trying to get this to work for a while now, and it's been. We didn't actually know this, but there is a live stream on Telegram. So if you want to go watch on Telegram, it's there. You just go to the Leviathan News page, and the stream will come up, which is pretty cool, isn't it?
Honestly, I didn't know they have that option.
Yeah, I didn't know this either. So, yeah.
What are your thoughts about USDC market cap cut by half over the last year or so, whatever the time frame is? Big deal, no big deal?
Yeah, I think it probably has to do with the just uncertainty within the United States.
I tend to agree.
Yeah,
I tend to agree. I also just told Garrett that I think it's more of a like the global macro liquidity situation. I don't think it's something that says a lot about USDC specifically or its situation at the moment.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think that like once we get a stronger regulatory situation, people will come flowing back in, but people probably just think it's safer to be in Tether for now, or just out of crypto in general. I mean, when short-term rates are paying 5%, there's not a lot of incentives to stay in stable coins. When it's like 1 to 2, like it was, then sure, like there's all the reason to stay in stable coins.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So sorry for coming on a little bit late. I had some technical difficulties. But yeah, what else do we have yesterday? So, Flashbots raised a 60 million Series B at $1 billion valuation. Wow, that's healthy, to say the least.
They're now a unicorn, $1 billion company.
That is pretty crazy.
It's actually like probably conservative for their valuation, since they essentially run Ethereum at this point. Like the entirety of Ethereum is running through Flashbots.
That is true, actually.
How big of a threat is that centralization issue that Flashbots rules such a big chunk of it in your mind?
I think it'll. I don't worry about it too much. I think that there's some other discussions that have been having about the Flashbots control. I mean, we talked about this a while back about like the PBS updates that are currently going through the Ethereum discussion boards, and I don't know. We'll see how that goes. Garrett, did you We talked about this like what 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm not sure when.
Yeah, we talked about it a while back, and it's like a contentious debate. Like it's essentially a fully centralized service, and they've been functioning, thankfully, as benevolent actors within the space. But one of the flashpoints came to a head when there was the guys might be like too young to remember this, but there was the question over like validators not submitting blocks that had OFAC sanctioned addresses.
Mm-hmm.
And like things running through Tornado Cash, which wasn't too big of an issue. It essentially just meant that like things were slowed down from like 12 seconds to 24 seconds typically. But it still was like this like massive concern about, is Ethereum decentralized? Is it centralized? If it's like censoring or slowing potentially to a trickle kind of like transactions from bad actors. So.
Well, those transactions would still be included. It would just take longer for them to be included into the
exactly.
block,
But
right?
Bitcoin maxis were sitting there saying, "Oh, this is proof that proof of stake doesn't work. Ethereum's centralized. It's run by Klaus Schwab in the World Economic Forum." So,
how long can they be delayed at such situations? For example, like can they be delayed for like months or a year, or is it just a matter of like minutes or?
No, it's just a few blocks. It's like you'd have to wait an extra 30 seconds or a minute or something like that.
Yeah. So it wasn't too bad. You could foresee a scenario where like Kim Jong-un hops on and tries to like send a transaction and 99.9% of people are censoring him. But if he keeps like a small relay of people in North Korea running nodes, eventually it'll go through.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's no way to censor the block completely. Eventually it'll get your validator will get selected, or your node operator will get selected, and it'll get included in the block. You'll get to build the block, but I don't worry about that too much. I think but Flashbots has proposed like open sourcing their software and allowing different clients to run. So
they're pushing in the right direction. It's just gonna be interesting to see, is now that they're a unicorn, like what obligations they have, especially as like regulatory frameworks get proposed and developed within the United States.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, so we'll see more of Flashbots, obviously. I mean, let's pull up the Flashbots Dune dashboard here. So Flashbots has, according to Dune, extracted more than $700 million of MEV, and they have provided, most of that's arbitrage, right? So $541 million of arbitrage gross profits, $172 million worth of liquidation profits.
How long did it actually take them to get to this total gross extracted MEV?
So they've started back in March of 2020.
Man, and you said that they just got a $1 billion valuation, but they created in 3 years this kind of value? Or am I getting something wrong?
No, they raised a $1 billion valuation. But most of this profit goes to the people executing the strategies, right? Flashbots just takes a small cut of all of this.
Yeah, still like crypto valuations make no sense to me. If you're like if you expect, as I do, that crypto is going to be a multi-trillion-dollar industry, a $1 billion valuation for controlling and having such a control over the direction of it seems wildly conservative to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Not financial advice, folks.
Yeah, so the transactions that Flashbots runs, like they kind of put together these bundles, right? So the bundles are sent to relayers. Relayers act as like the people who include everything into the blocks. And then the Flashbot miners are miners who are running a modified Geth client, and they choose the most profitable bundle and then choose to mine that in the next block. And then miners get paid by the searchers directly with Ethereum fees in the smart contract instead of transaction fees.
Yeah, I have availed myself of it. It's a wonderful service. I have in my history proposed 10 blocks, and
really?
some of them have been substantial. So
wow.
like not like not like life-changing like retirement money. But when you sit there and you like process the blocks and it earns you like, since I've been doing it, like I've earned like half an Ethereum or so, or maybe 1 Ethereum per validator. But then when you get like all of a sudden like a one-time payoff of like 0.05 to 0.1 ETH, you're like, huh, okay, that's why I'm doing it.
Well, that's pretty cool.
I mean, the dream, I don't want to say dream because it's unfortunate, but like Conic Finance was hacked the other day, but a lot of it went to MEV. About like 2/3 the proceeds went to an MEV bot. And, if your validator just happens to be selected, that's if it was me, I'd refund it, right? But
but it's because you're like, you should be the prime minister of Ethereum if you're gonna return that money. You know what I mean?
Or maybe I take a 10% MEV fee. Who knows?
Speaking of Conic Finance, let me bring up the story from their most recent blog post. So it's called Looking Ahead, and they're like talking actually about the MEV bots, right? So they said since the first exploits occurred, we've been doing everything we can to recover the stolen funds. Yesterday, we were able to communicate with one of the MEV bots that incidentally profited from the exploit. The owner of the MEV bot has done the right thing and returned the 81 ETH. The bot made 90 ETH profit, of which he kept 9 ETH as a 10% bounty.
That's what I said.
Yeah, like sounds like this is like the normal fee in the industry, I guess.
Transaction fees, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta keep some aside to pay for gas to return that.
True.
Are the Conic contracts online yet? Are they back running again?
No, they're still suspended. They are still they're still paused. You can only withdraw.
Okay. Interesting. They haven't provided any sort of timeline on getting them up. They probably have to go back through audit and get fully checked again, right?
Yeah, I'd imagine they have to go through another round of audits and maybe ask the auditors what happened this last go round.
I think it's better for them. And by the way, I wanted to ask something. Maybe it's a dumb question, but still, I think I myself am interested in the answer, and I think maybe quite a few listeners or viewers. Like, just like they suspended the deposit, theoretically, can they also suspend withdrawals? Because if they can, it's kind of problematic, no?
I don't know if they can suspend withdrawals. I'd have to look at the contract. I would assume not. But because that's a rug function right there.
Yeah.
So my guess would be no. But it's possible they could have coded it in.
Okay.
We also had another cool product released yesterday, which was the Badger Finance's EBTC purple paper. And so EBTC is a zero fee synthetic Bitcoin that's minted against steth. So essentially, it's you deposit your steth into this contract, and then you borrow EBTC against it, and so you are long ETH at that point and short Bitcoin, and you are able to take a pretty high collateralization ratio, and as long as you maintain, I believe, above 110%, which is quite high, then you can hold and use this Bitcoin for whatever you want to do. And like if you want to get leveraged, if you want to short Bitcoin and get leveraged ETH, you can sell the Bitcoin and buy more ETH with it. You could go farm with it. I mean, there's a bunch of different options of what you can do with this synthetic EBTC. The main thing is that what Badger's trying to do is like create the first real synthetic asset for Bitcoin on Ethereum that doesn't rely on these there's not even really it doesn't rely on like a centralized bridge like with WBTC or the poor alternatives for decentralized bridges that have existed. And there have been several attempts to bring decentralized BTC onto Ethereum, but nothing has really taken off. You had RenBTC, which was run for a significant amount of time, and then they shut down. And it was kind of weird. I mean, you remember this with Curve, right? Curve was telling people, "Hey, get your RenBTC off, like take it out of Curve, like get out of it." That was a whole fiasco, wasn't it, Gary?
Yeah, it is. At the time it was like, that we'll let the past be in the past, but like there was exposure to like all the SBF stuff, and there may even be some with WBTC, which is the most popular one. But yeah, I would point out that like this like a new generation of Bitcoin on Ethereum emerging. It's still in its infancy, so we'll have to see where it goes. I think eBTC is very much a part of it. And to your point, Sam, they like explicitly mentioned like the ability for this to like serve as like a hedging instrument. And the other one that I want to shout out is Threshold Networks TBTC, which is actually looking to build out a very decentralized bridge between Bitcoin and Ethereum. More decentralized than any of the bridges we've seen in the past. Like it's starting out with like a little bit of centralization to get it off the ground. But they've taken a lot of steps to like actually like allow it to go in the direction of true decentralization. They one of the things that they did was they brought on Chris Bleck to like analyze the entire like architecture of it and like give his like thoughts on it. Chris Bleck, of course, is like one of the leading advocates for decentralization. He's constantly like hammering protocols whenever they have any issues with decentralization. And he didn't give it like a full clean bill of health, but like seemed to say it was promising. So with TBTC, they started off only being able to mint from Bitcoin to Ethereum, and just last week or 2 weeks ago, I'm like still on metric time, enabled burns back to Bitcoin, and that's been going successfully. So they're actually like hitting their roadmap. So we're seeing like the advent of like V2 of Bitcoin on Ethereum, and it's looking exciting.
So, honestly, a very interesting narrative. I also think they're doing Badger. I think it's a smart move to go the ST ETH way in a way, because it's like ST ETH is like it's just sitting there. It's waiting for stuff to do.
Yeah,
and so much of it.
In case people miss this point, like the reason that it's zero fees is you don't get to keep the yield of the Steth, whatever however it's pronounced. Like you give them the Steth, and they take the yield and use that to power and pay for all the fees, as well as like fund it.
Wow. Yeah, so it's like an implicit 5% borrow on Bitcoin that you're taking against your Steth.
Exactly, and I think we're going to see more and more like LSDFi protocols take that sort of, take that approach. Yeah.
So this screenshot that we're posting was from Lobsters. This was posted by McLean Williamson, who called it an alpha leak for his lobster friends. And this shows the ability to actually unmint TBTC. And then we also have a Dune dashboard as well too. So the current supply of TBTC is $24.5 million. This has been live since February 1st. And currently there is 836 TBTC that has been minted. A good majority of this is in Curve. So right now, 233 out of the 800 TBTC is in Curve, probably trading against WBTC and earning some CRV return or CRV yields.
Yeah, one of the new tri-crypto pools that has been launched on Curve is TBTC along with wrapped Steth and Curve USD. So this one kind of went live recently, and it's getting really good incentives, which is, it's a bit more of a decentralized version of each of the three assets in tri-crypto.
Interesting.
An interesting farming option for the degens out there.
Interesting. Yeah, so it'll be nice to see. I think there's more decentralized BTC options coming. I mean, the problem with bringing over Bitcoin is that there's no real great way to custody the BTC and have it like broadcast. Like Bitcoin doesn't like broadcast signals to other networks like Ethereum can. So like Ethereum can broadcast out signals. Like you can code a contract that calls a API function or does something, but it doesn't go the other way. So there's some trust assumptions which have to be overcome. Normally this is done with, I don't know how TBTC is doing it, but I knew with Ren, they had their like network of nodes, which is essentially like spread the keys out, the private keys for custodying the BTC. and those nodes would be like paid for their services. But yeah, or you have to use a centralized service like WBTC or like WBTC.
Yeah, we could probably get someone from TBTC on, to be honest. I think they'd be happy to talk about it.
Yeah. So if it is a novel solution, then hopefully it can start to take a greater market share away from WBTC, because it's interesting to me that Bitcoin is such a large part of the DeFi ecosystem across all of Ethereum, yet it's primarily just driven by one asset, which is WBTC.
Yeah, and Will in the comments asks if we have any opinions on BTCB, which my understanding is the layer 0 version of Bitcoin.
No, I've not seen that yet. Have you looked at that?
I haven't looked into it, so I'll have to. Layer 0 is moving great. So
I thought it was the BTC on Binance used to be called like that. No, am I doing?
Well, there's no naming conventions in crypto.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I'm looking at the BTC pools on Curve, and the largest ones, pretty much every single major pool on Curve is WBTC. So the largest tri-crypto pool is WBTC with 130 million. Actually, the second largest WBTC place is also the what's the difference between tri-crypto V2 and then this tri-crypto USDC? Oh, this one has
that's the legacy. That's the legacy tri-crypto from the previous iterations. Tri-crypto USDC is the V2. So we'll probably expect tri-crypto 2 gets deprecated at some point in favor of the newer pools.
But it seems that the market's still signaling that they want to have USDT as the pair and not USDC.
Yeah, that's part of it. Part of it is just that the I don't understand why this is. So it's the same composition tri-crypto 2 as tri-crypto USDT. The latter is earning better rewards, but for some reason people are keeping all their money in the former. So my expectation is at some point, obviously there's still incentives flowing to both pools. So maybe people are just like, it's fine, I'm not going to bother moving. And I think that's because not every exchange aggregator is hooked up to run trades through tri-crypto USDT. So there's still utility in having both pools. But my guess is as soon as tri-crypto NG pools are kind of more fully supported, we're going to see it get choked off to tri-crypto 2 and all the liquidity migrates.
Yeah, that's an interesting process. So outside of those 2 or 3 pools, the largest not purely WBTC pool is the HBTC pool with $10 million in it. And even that one's skewed towards WBTC by 60%. So WBTC dominates the landscape. And if you go to Aave or Compound, I don't think there's options for BTC peers other than WBTC.
Yeah, it's WBTC's world still. There's been questions because some of the authorized minters of WSBT included either Alameda or FTX. So, possible red flags, but whatever. Will, by the way, follows up on BTCB, which is describing as a non-custodial Bitcoin to Avalanche, bridge integrated with Layer 0, used widely in Avalanche DeFi and enabled for all L0 chains. And BTCB is also available on Aave. Yeah,
since I guess it's just ease of use, right? Since there is no real great decentralized custody solution for Bitcoin yet, or for a Bitcoin wrapped asset, people just automatically go to WBTC because they don't mind.
Yeah, and also I think because they have currently a lot more things they can do with BTC, to take a loan against it or whatever. But I'm pretty sure that now, all kinds of stuff are gonna emerge. Because honestly, I think that the way I imagine it, I won't be surprised if in 10 or 20 years there's more BTC on Ethereum than not.
Yeah. I think the WBTC thing is it's mostly used as a collateral asset. So if you don't have the integrations, if you're not in Aave, if you're not in Compound, if you're not in Curve, Curve is Curve, right? You can create any pool you want and then get a gauge. But if nobody's borrowing against your asset, then it just is not going to be used in general, and you won't get the TVLs that you need to become significant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also the WBTC has held its peg pretty well. I think that's the thing I want to watch out for with EBTC is how well it holds its peg.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we also had some interesting. So yeah, I'll be interested to see how this like EBTC like Badger release comes, like how much demand there is for synthetic shorts.
I bet we can get Badger on to come talk about it too.
Yeah. Chris is always willing to come and talk. I'm surprised we haven't had him on yet, but we'll reach out today.
Good time.
So the big story, well, actually, this has been like an ongoing story. It was really interesting yesterday to hear in the interview with Jason how like all the networks, when you talk to them, are just interested in developing games. That like games are at the top of the list for all these networks. But at the same time, the other big narrative that has been happening is RWAs, or real world assets, tokenization of houses, of stocks, bonds, like all different types of securities, and then putting them on Ethereum and connecting them into DeFi. This has been a ongoing like narrative and problem since the early 2020s, and we're still kind of spinning up. We don't really have a dominant player yet. Nobody has a moat, and the options have been limited so far. This year, we've seen the introduction of on-chain treasuries with Ondo, and there are several options for going out and lending your USDC or USDT into these like money markets that then get taken off chain and lent out to people. But I think there's a big push that's coming for RWAs. We had two stories yesterday. First is Binance released their market research on RWA, and they estimate a $16 trillion market cap for these assets by the end of 2030. That's in 6 years. So that's an insane amount of growth over the next few months. They say
Layer Zero is only valued at $1 billion.
Yeah,
or not Layer Zero, Flashbots.
Yeah, so they essentially are like going the bullish route here and saying that there's going to be huge growth in the RWA scene. The treasury market alone is going to explode, and it could be the next big driver, right, of growth across these like L1 and L2s.
Yeah, this will actually be huge, but it will also get us into a whole new era of different centralized risks. Like if in the last cycle we saw like the exchanges and custody service go down pretty much one by one, I think that this next wave of RWAs will also bring a lot of it will bring a lot of bad services with it, to be honest. But I do think it's happening. It's also very important. But we are going to have some clashes with this one for sure.
Yeah,
that's a really good point. Just imagine what a $16 trillion RWA bubble crash could do to all of our token prices. Like, you thought the dumps were bad now.
Yeah, I don't think it would be like that. I mean, I think that's a little bit hyperbolic to talk about it in those terms. Like, if somebody's getting it on chain, they obviously have the right licenses and go ahead to operate in the way that they want to. So I think the big thing that people have talked about this cycle, at least in 2023, has been the treasury markets, since rates have gone up to 5, 6, even higher outside the United States. And I think investors would like to get access to that on chain so they don't have to move off, so they can get out of stable coins, which are not a great proposition when like you can get it in a short-term treasury for 5%. And so we'll see if this RWA trend can actually gain some steam. I think it's probably closely tied in with adequate, transparent, and clear-headed legislation that needs to be passed in the U.S. Congress. But we'll see. And so you have a lot of networks, specifically for today's story, Avalanche, that have come out and are starting to create these like funds. So let me pull this up. Okay, they changed. So Twitter changed they got rid of the bird, right? It's hard to see. Did you notice that today? They got rid of the bird. It's now X. So Avalanche came out and said they are introducing this through the foundation. It's called Avalanche Vista, a $50 million initiative to pioneer tokenization on Avalanche. This is just like one of many different funds. Avalanche is getting into the game, hopefully to drive some of this tokenization over to the networks. Algorand has been big on this as well too, and it's not really been like a needle mover yet. So we will see if this is enough to bring new users over to their networks.
I've been impressed by Avalanche managing to stay relevant and like continue like surviving this bear market and building and launching all this stuff. Do any of you use Avalanche a lot?
No.
I also don't really use it, but I get your point there. Like, it doesn't seem like Avalanche is going anywhere, and I do think that they do have some kind of user base, at least with some of the users I'm in contact with, and I think they have a very strong financial back. To be honest, like. They can pull out all kinds of incentives for whatever they want to achieve. So I do think that they're going to have their way in the next bull market. I think they're going to have a vibrant ecosystem
there. Yeah, so we will see how that plays out. I know that Avalanche is probably preparing themselves for the game stuff as well too with their subnets. But it's really up in the air to see how the next cycle plays out. Could be games, could be RWAs. We will see, but we'll definitely keep on watching the growth, and hopefully we do get to $16 trillion. Because if there's that much RWAs on Ethereum and other L1s, it's an enormous amount of fees that have to be paid.
Yeah, and also I think it will only be like it will also be the start, because eventually there's going to be a lot more than 16 trillion of real world assets on Ethereum, the way I see it.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. That's why we're all bullish. We're all early.
Yeah. So Garrett, did you look into this? I think you brought up this Optimism story that we have today.
I did, and basically what I see here is that there's been a bunch of forks of Optimism, as we've seen, right? Like Base is forking Optimism, and each of these chains that forks Optimism, they have their own innovations on top of it, right? So Optimism is really hoping that they can keep everything standardized in some way, that they can kind of combine all these Optimism forks into a complete stack and create like this like mega Uber chain. So to do so, they're just proposing some standards by which this could be done, and this is that screenshot that you just brought up as how they're
super chain. Yeah.
So they're creating the law of chains. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with it.
So the law of chains, they say, is going to ensure the block space remains homogeneous, neutral, and open. It will benefit from constant improvement through shared upgrades and then more available infrastructure, because everything will be standardized, and then everything can be like indexed and sequenced affordably and easily across all these different networks.
Yeah, so we'll see where it goes. It's a cool name though, Law of Chains.
Law of Chains and a super chain.
Super chain, yeah. So A+ branding, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely some
how
like
is this
level.
the first time that we're hearing the concept super chain?
That's a good question. I'll ask the marketers of the other chains.
Yeah, we should have asked Arbitrum about that.
Why didn't Satoshi come up with super chain if he's so smart, or she's so smart?
Let's see what else. Quantstamp settled with the SEC for $28.35 million for their unregistered securities offering back in 2017. Wow, 5 years to get to this point. So they sold QSP tokens to 5,000 investors, including investors in the United States, and they did not register as a securities offering. They didn't have a Form D, they didn't have a Form S, and so they've been fined all this money.
The daily casual SEC story of the day.
Yeah, exactly. The interesting thing about this one is that they did not admit or deny the SEC's findings, so they just settled with them, and they agreed to a cease and desist order and to pay a disgorgement of $1.9 million and also interest of $500,000 and a civil penalty of $1 million. And then to establish a fair fund to return monies paid in the ICO to investors.
I guess they made more money than that in that case.
So if you are or were a Quantstamp investor, you should definitely be looking to hopefully get some money back.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Let's see what else. I think that is mostly it. There's some other stories here, like the Singapore High Court recognized crypto as property. It's kind of local. And
I actually wanted us to mention the Frax V3 stuff. I saw some stuff on it yesterday.
Oh yeah, highly just a bunch of rumors at the moment. But Sam's starting to like leak out stuff about Frax V3.
Yeah, you know, I'm sorry, but you say a bunch of rumors, and I get that. But I saw a tweet. I think it was yesterday where DeFi Dave, he had a tweet saying like Frax V3, Frax V3, Frax V3. You know, it was like.
I think they're getting closer to releasing it. Nobody knows exactly what the mechanism is. Sam said some things about how it should work, notably that the goal of Frax V3 is to reduce the dependencies on USDC in some way. So whatever that means. Yeah,
implying the Fed master account and stuff like that, right? I saw some implies on that.
I don't.
Not directly by Frax team or something like that.
I don't think this actually has to do with the FMA. So he said it's more of a way to keep the peg without having to rebalance the curve pools or sell collateral. So it's like a new mechanism that they've designed, and it's like. Does some cool stuff. There's not that much information about it. I mean, he's dropped it. He says it's a brand new design. Nobody's ever done this. It's developed completely in house, and the whole point is to reduce the reliance on fiat coins somehow.
Although I've seen some chatter about Frax USD, basically being like real world treasury deposits, whatnot, and then using that as collateral backing. And Sam's been talking about that a little bit, and there's been like rumors that it's going to like be managed through Paxos or something like that. Anything you've heard on that front?
Well, I think this is the issue for any decentralized stablecoin issuer, is that at some point you either have to cut a deal with the actual issuers, so like USDC, Paxos, to get a portion of that interest routed back to you, or you have to go set up your own stablecoin. And then you can capture everything, but you got to run it at that point. So I think most, like DAI's taken, like gone in line with Coinbase, and they're getting what, like 1.5% or 2% back from Circle now that they're using for the DSR. And Binance had some agreements with Paxos as well too for BUSD. So all these agreements are out there. I think that some of them are probably not so explicit as well too, but I think there's going to be a marked change over the next year or two about how stablecoins are used and about how they're issued and what that relationship is between on-chain protocols and the stablecoin issuers themselves. I think there's going to be competition for that interest yield. Stablecoin issuers are going to have to compete against each other to see who can pay the most, so that they can retain the highest TVL.
All right, tinfoil cast here. Is this? Is this?
I wouldn't call it tinfoil cast. Yeah, I wouldn't call it tinfoil cast. I mean, maybe it's the case. I mean, like there has been some rumors about this whole Paxos thing. We do have the Frax PP pool on Curve, where Frax is paired against USDP, and it's the second largest Frax pool after the Frax USDC base pool. So we'll see. But even I read and write Frax all day, and I've yet to find a deeper discussion of this. So I don't have any information for you guys other than what has been publicly announced by the team in the chat.
Well, maybe we can get someone named Sam to come on and talk about it.
Yeah. That other Sam.
I think in a week or two. So Drake, one of the developers, it's his. He's getting married this week, and so.
Congratulations!
Everybody's going. Yeah. So everybody's going to his wedding, and then I think there's going to be an announcement after that. Once everybody.
Ooh, we're gonna have Leviathan live coverage of the wedding.
I think there would be a flywheel thing. But we'll see.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll have pictures.
The rare wedding cast. We do so many prison casts and tinfoil casts. We have to have the.
But I don't think at this point, the big things that are going to move the needle for Frax potentially could be V3. I think it's going to be the FraxGov deployment, which will completely remove the ability of the multi-sig to have any like unilateral control on the protocol, and then the addition of the Frax EV2 contracts, which will also allow anybody to come in. And it's essentially like Rocket Pool, but without the governance token and higher LTVs. So I think those two additions will be could be much more significant than what V3 is going to update.
Going to be exciting for sure, honestly, much anticipated, and I really think that if it works out well, as hopefully it does, I think it can be a very big catalyst for Frax if they go there, if they start having actual decentralized governance.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a game changer for them.
Yeah, of course. I mean, this is something that's been said, well over several times at this point. So I think a lot of people are just sitting on the sidelines waiting for the multi-sigs to not have the power that they do, right? Have 5 people.
I think it's one of the top criticisms or critiques, or however you say that, about Frax. Cool.
Yeah, but as we've seen with a lot of these projects, like you move from a more centralized state into fully decentralized, and then the goal really is to just throw up your hands and kind of disappear into the ether. And then the system just runs itself, right?
Yeah. Slowly, step by step.
Well, let's leave it at that. I think we covered all the big stories for today, especially the ones in DeFi, where we love to discuss and where we live every single day, the three of us. We will be back tomorrow. It's Wednesday. We'll be back Thursday for another episode of Leviathan News. Garrett, DeFi Advisor, it was great to have you guys on today.
Same.
Great to be here.
Mm-hmm. And also our audience as well, too. For those of you tuned in to the Telegram live stream, thank you so much for tuning in. Also, you on Twitter and those for us watching on YouTube or Spotify, thank you so much. And we will be back tomorrow.
Amen. Goodbye, folks.